Okay, new year, new e.l.f. launches. I am so excited to put these products to the test. I've had some of these for a couple of weeks at this point, and I didn't have the chance to try them out just with the holiday season. My family has been sick for weeks. We got hit hard with everything you could imagine, and thankfully we are starting to feel better now, and I just want to sit down and apply some makeup and hang out. So I cannot wait to use a lot of these products. This feels so nice. These are the Holy Hydration Thirst Burst Drops. My skin needs these. I think I'm most excited to try the Halo Glow Powder Filter because this sounds really nice too. There is a potential dupe for the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes Palette. Oh, I'm really excited about this too. I ordered this a little while ago, the Power Grip Matte Primer. So I'll come back in a week or two and update you on how these products wear, give my full reviews. I'm going to be testing out a bunch of other drugstore makeup as well. It's the beginning of the year, which means a lot of drugstore brands will be launching new products, new collections, and I'll be here to share whether or not I think they're worth the money, they're worth the price. So stay tuned for those videos, and let's just hang out and apply the makeup. So these are the Thirst Burst Drops. They retail for $12. It's supposed to be a hydrating gel serum, and it's supposed to give you a radiant, hydrated complexion, both immediately but also over time. So this is infused with 1% hydrating hibiscus complex and then 5% niacinamide plus hyaluronic acid. So some really great ingredients. I was kind of curious to know if it was a good dupe or alternative to the Watermelon Glow Dewdrops from Glow Recipe, which I do love. The packaging is really nice. It comes in this hefty glass bottle, so this feels a little bit elevated. Okay, so the actual product is pink, just like Glow Recipe, which on the top it does say Juicy Pink Gel Drops, which makes me wonder if they're going to come out with other options. I know Glow Recipe has the bronzer one. They also released like a rosy glow one recently. When you blend it into the skin, it does look clear, just like the Glow Recipe one, the original one. It looks nice. Like this is what my skin needs right now after being sick. I don't think these actually have a scent. So they don't have that watermelon scent that the Glow Recipe ones do, which I like that scent, but I know for some people it can be a little bit much. I'm actually going to mix in a little bit of the bronzing drops. So I have Pure Gold. I just feel like my skin could use a little bit of a bronzer drop. And I do love the e.l.f. bronzing drops. They were part of my favorite products of 2024. Honestly, I do think you can wear them on their own, but because they are pretty pigmented, I might have even gone in with a little bit too much. I find that they're best applied mixed with either a moisturizer or a serum. So honestly, I feel like this could be the perfect combo. I think they have an option on e.l.f.'s website where you could get a mini of this and then maybe a mini of the bronzing drops as well. So I think they're kind of implying that you could wear them together too. I think it leaves my skin looking nice. Like there's definitely a nice glow. It looks hydrated. It's not super greasy or anything like that. I would say the Glow Recipe version is maybe a little bit more intense. So this could be more ideal if you don't like such a dewy looking appearance, or if you have normal leaning combo or oily skin, or if you want a less expensive alternative and you don't love a watermelon scented product. So I definitely think there are people out there who will enjoy this product. I'm kind of torn because I feel like this would be just a good base before I go in with foundation since my skin is feeling and looking hydrated, but I did get a matte primer that I want to try out. Actually, let me apply a lip oil first. So I bought these before I decided to go on a lip oil no buy. There are a few areas in my collection that have just gotten out of hand. Even as someone who reviews makeup as my job, I still try to keep it as curated as possible, and my lip oil collection exploded over the last year. There were just so many good launches. So for the foreseeable future, I am not buying another lip oil. But I bought these back in December. So these are the Glow Reviver lip oils, but they're the newer glimmer finish. So they came out with, I think, 7 or 8 shades. These retail for $8. I love the original lip oils from e.l.f., but those don't have any shimmer in them. And normally I'm not the biggest shimmery lip product fan, but I saw a couple of videos online where people were using these and I thought they looked so pretty. I think I might be changing my mind when it comes to like glittery, shimmery lip products. I love the way it looks on its own. I feel like over a lip liner or a nude lipstick, it would look amazing as well. I also got the shade Choco Luxe, which I will apply a little bit later on, probably once I have the completed look on. But these look nice. They don't feel gritty, despite the fact that there seems to be a ton of glitter in here. So I am going to use the Power Grip Matte Primer. This sounds very interesting. I'm curious to know how well it works. I love the original Power Grip Primer, but that is like the exact opposite of a matte primer. It is super glowy, very hydrating, very, very sticky, but it locks your makeup into place really well. It just leaves you with like a very dewy, glowy base. These days, and honestly most of the time, I am into more of a matte kind of smoothed out base. What's interesting about this one is they actually describe it as a sticky primer that grips your makeup, just like the original one, but it's supposed to minimize the look of excess shine and give you a smooth matte finish. So I don't know if I've ever tried a sticky primer that also claims to mattify my skin, so we'll see if it works. Okay, so it says to use your fingertips to apply and pat into the skin. Oh, weird. Okay, so it is like a sticky primer. Is my camera gonna focus? Disregard my nails. I'm trying to grow them out, and again, it's just been a rough few weeks. This one almost has like a gluey texture. You know what? I'm going to rub it in on this side and then I'll pat it in on the other side. I really like to work my primers into my skin really, really well, rather than just kind of tapping them in, because I feel like I can get a little bit more of an even application when I really work them in. Okay, so this is going on like a typical gripping primer. It doesn't feel like a mattifying primer. It doesn't feel like a smoothing primer. It's already sticky and I haven't even let it set on the skin. So on this side, I'm just kind of tapping it in. And I do think maybe that tapping motion is going to help to activate the grip a little bit more. And since that's how they recommend using it, I want to make sure I'm using it the right way too. Okay, the primer has had a chance to dry down probably for about a minute at this point. And you know what? My skin actually does look matte. It looks more matte on this side where it's had the chance to dry down a little bit longer, but I'm actually surprised by that. It feels matte too. There's a little bit of a tackiness there, but definitely not anything as intense as the original Power Grip. Keep in mind, I did go in with a hydrating, pretty glowy serum underneath. So if I had skipped this product and used a little bit more of like a satin moisturizer, I'd probably get even more of a matte finish, but I'm actually surprised at how my skin looks and feels right now. So like I said, there's a little bit of a grip there, nothing too intense. So we'll see if my skin looks extra smooth as I apply foundation. I'm going to be using the e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Foundation. I have the shade 20 Light Cool. I actually have a bunch of brushes from BK Beauty I'm going to be using in today's video. I would normally use e.l.f. brushes just because I try to kind of stick with the brand when I am doing not like a complete full face, but you know, like mainly one brand. But I need to wash like all of my makeup brushes. BK Beauty was kind enough to send me quite a few brushes actually back in December. Anyway, I am really loving the brushes I've used. This one is the 101 brush. Definitely worth the hype. It's just very smooth, applies foundation beautifully. I love the Soft Glam foundation so much. It just looks so pretty on the skin. I feel like it has the exact right amount of coverage for day to day, and it always lasts really well on my skin too. The foundation is applying really well on top of the primer. My skin definitely looks smoothed out. It doesn't look overly matte, but there is more of a matte finish there compared to when I use obviously like a glowy primer, or you know, typically I do end up pairing this with the Power Grip or something similar. So I kind of like that. I am into a little bit more of a smooth matte finish these days rather than something super glowy. This foundation actually holds up pretty well on my skin throughout the day, but again, I'm curious to know if it's going to hold up even better with this primer underneath. Okay, for concealer, I actually don't have an e.l.f. concealer right now. I do like the Camo line, but it's probably a little bit thicker than I typically go for these days, the actual texture of the concealer. And then they do have that flawless, is that what it's called? The Flawless Finish Concealer, which I love, but that one probably has a little less coverage than I would prefer. So this is obviously a me issue, but I feel like I could see them launching a new concealer in 2024. So we'll see. This is just the Catrice True Skin Concealer, and I have the shade Cool Cashmere. Actually, before I blend that out, I am going to go in with a little bit of liquid bronzer. This is the e.l.f. Camo Liquid Bronzer and Contour. So I have two different shades. I have Fair, and then I also have Fair Light. I think I might actually mix these two together. Fair is obviously a lot more cool toned. Fair Light is a little bit more warm toned. And, you know, I've been saying for a little while, I'm just not the biggest liquid bronzer, liquid contour fan. So that is actually something I've resolved to stop buying in 2025 as well. I did a video on makeup products I'm just not buying next year. If you want to check it out, I'll link it below. But out of all of the liquid bronzers and contours I've tried, this is by far my favorite. And I think if you are a fan of liquid bronzer and liquid contour, you would like this. It just, for me, it really comes down to personal preference. I usually like something that has a little bit of coverage, which is why I am such a fan of cream bronzer overall, because I feel like this is an area where I do deal, I know I say this all the time, and I don't want to be overly repetitive if you watch my videos, but I do typically deal with some scarring, some discoloration in this area, so a little bit of coverage that I typically get with like a cream bronzer makes a difference for me personally. Although that looks really good. That applied in 2 seconds. It's probably partially due to this brush, the BK Beauty Angie Hot and Flashy A507. And I do love these two shades mixed together. I don't know why I've never mixed them before, but I feel like sometimes Fair on its own can be a little bit too cool toned, and then Fair Light can be a little bit too warm. It must be this brush because that went on so perfectly. And again, as far as liquid bronzers and liquid contours go, like I said, this is my favorite formula. But wow, I feel like it just like melted into the skin today really, really well. Okay, I'm just going to blend out the concealer. This is the BK Beauty Nikki LaRose N14 brush. Actually, I'm just going to apply a little bit of bronzer to my nose before I set everything with powder. I'm so excited to try this powder. Where did it go? Okay, so this is the Halo Glow powder filter. It comes in 12 different shades. It was actually a little bit expensive. It was $14, and I was surprised by that because when I ordered mine, I had points. If you sign up for e.l.f.'s Beauty Squad program, you can actually accumulate points and then get money off your order. And because I do buy a lot of e.l.f. launches, I feel like I do accumulate those points. So I think I got mine for $10. So when I was like pulling up the prices for today's video, I was like, oh, 14. That's more than I remember. It is pretty pricey for a drugstore powder though. So I got the shade Light Neutral. The packaging is pretty. It has this clear lid. It's a little bit darker in person than I thought it was going to be. When you flip it open, there is a mirror, which is nice. And then there's also a little puff as well. So I really do love the loose Halo Glow powder. I've been raving about that on my channel for years. I've said that it feels very similar or very reminiscent to like an Hourglass powder. It gives a very similar effect on the skin, in my opinion. It's weird because some people say that it has glitter in it. I've never found that to be the case. This one definitely does not have any sort of glitter or shimmer to it, just so you know. Online, it does say that it gives you a soft focus glow. So I'm curious to know what that looks like. It's also supposed to blur the skin, reduce shine, and set makeup. So let's use it to set my under eye concealer. Again, I think this is a little bit darker than I was anticipating, so it might look a little bit off. It's slightly more yellow toned. Okay, this definitely has coverage to it, and it does have a very smooth finish. The finish does remind me of the Camo powder foundation, but again, just not as heavy as that one. That's a pretty heavy powder, so I don't typically use that as like a setting powder. I'll really only use it as an actual powder foundation, whereas this one's a little bit lighter on the skin, just a little bit softer, but there's definitely still coverage there. There's a nice blur. It looks really good. So now that I've set like the middle of my face with the puff, I'm just going to take a fluffy brush and set the rest. Okay, so as for the shade match, you know what? It actually ended up working out pretty well. I would say if you're unsure, you might want to go maybe just like one shade lighter, because I do think in person, I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh, that looks much darker than it did online. So just something to note. But because it is lighter coverage, it might be a little bit more customizable than like an actual powder foundation. I think this looks really pretty on the skin. I definitely see the soft focus glow. Like my skin is not a flat matte, which sometimes I do go for because my skin will end up getting oily. So I'm curious to know how this will actually hold up on my skin throughout the day. But this could actually be a good powder for people who don't like a powdery look. Because it has that creaminess to it, it doesn't look like a typical powder on the skin. It looks really, really nice. I'm just going to speed through the brow gel really quickly. I do have a new brow pen from e.l.f. that I'm going to try out, but this is the NYX Thick It Stick It Brow Gel. So I'm just going to apply this to my brows and then give it a second to dry down. Okay, so e.l.f. actually launched a brow pen. I'm really excited to try this out, although it doesn't have the best reviews online. I didn't actually read through the reviews to see why people didn't like it. I just noticed it didn't have like a super high star rating. So I thought I would just try it out and form my own opinion. It is the Holy Strokes Micro Fine Brow Pen, and I got the shade Dark Brown. So this comes in 7 different shades. The reason why this one sounds nice to me, maybe compared to other brow pens at the drugstore, is because it is supposed to have like a super ultra fine tip. And I tried one from LA Girl that, or was it LA Girl? Yeah, I think it was LA Girl, that I loved earlier this year because it had a super fine tip. Let's see. Yeah, this one is really, really small. I just feel like you can get more of a natural look when you have a super small applicator. But the issue is that one dried out so fast. So I'm hoping this one works well. I'm also hoping it's not too warm toned. That is like my big pet peeve when it comes to brow products, is like an overly warm toned brown. Okay, I feel like I'm not getting anything. Is it even working? Oh no, it's gonna be the same case with this one as the LA Girl one. It just feels like it's already dried out. That must be what the bad reviews are all about. And this one does pull very, very red. So if you're like me and you don't love a red toned brow product, don't go for this one. Although if you do want a red toned brow product, you might like this, but it's so subtle. It's too subtle. I can't really get it to draw on my skin. It doesn't look right. Like it's not creating the hair-like strokes. It's adding a little bit of color, but it's not like defining them in the right way. I'm just going in with the NYX one. I use the shade Espresso. That really sucks. I'm like, I love the NYX one. I love the Milani one, and they work perfectly well. My issue with the NYX one is sometimes it comes out a little bit faster than I would typically love, which is why I would love just like a little bit more of a tapered applicator. But you know what? Like this one really does the job, and it takes forever to dry out. Like it takes me months to run through one of these. I guess this is my first fail of the day. It really just feels like it is basically dried out, and I think that's how they actually designed it. So if you really want like a truly subtle brow pen, maybe you would like this, but I found that it was kind of hard to get this to actually show up on my skin. It just kind of added color to the brows. The brows are not looking the best right now. So I could use a spoolie and I can't find one, so just disregard them. I feel like this is as good as they're going to get. Okay, so I did pick up the new Perfect 10 palette. This one is called Keep It Ethereal, which I've heard that it's meant to be a dupe for the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette. This was limited edition, so it's not currently available. I feel like at some point they might end up bringing it back again. The e.l.f. one seems to have a little bit more depth to it, which could be a pro for you because this one, you know, there are like maybe one or two shades to kind of darken up the looks, but for the most part, you don't get like a lot of darker, smoky looks. I do have a couple of these palettes, and I can say the shimmer formula is not the exact same as Makeup by Mario by any means, but this is a really, really good formula. The matte shadows blend out perfectly. The shimmers, they do look pretty vibrant on the eyes. They're more of like a typical metallic formula that you would see in an eyeshadow palette rather than like that kind of scattered glitter look that you sometimes get with this palette. But anyway, let's try this out and see what type of look I can get. Should I use the Makeup by Mario on one side and the e.l.f. on one side? Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to start with this shade in the crease. So again, because the Makeup by Mario palette isn't available, this could be a good alternative if you really wanted those shades and you didn't get your hands on it. I probably wouldn't buy it hoping that it's like a true formula dupe, just because again, the shimmers really aren't going to be the exact same. For me, that's what kind of sets the Makeup by Mario palette apart, is the fact that it has those like light, soft, shimmery glitter shades in it. Obviously, it applies really, really easily. Everything blends out super nicely. This is the BK Beauty 201. I'm just going to take a little bit of this brown shadow and work that into the crease and the outer corner, just to darken it up just a little bit. Okay, honestly, these shadows are applying perfectly. They're very creamy. There's literally no skipping, no patchiness. Everything's going on nicely. They are powdery, but so is the Makeup by Mario palette. Okay, let me stop there. I'll do the same thing on the other eye with the Makeup by Mario palette. Let me just clean this brush off. I'm going to start with this shade in the crease as a transition color. By the way, how are your holidays? I didn't get the chance to really talk to you guys in real time because, like I said, my entire family was so sick. I feel like everyone I talked to was sick this year. I'm just using the lightest shade to blend out the edges, and then I'm going to go in with, what was the equivalent to the shade I used? This shade right here in the outer corner in the crease. I'm just kind of ready to get back into our normal routine, our normal life. December was such a mess because not only were my kids sick and I was sick for the actual like holiday season, well, I wasn't. They were sick like all of December before that too. So December was just kind of an absolute mess, to be honest. My kids are really little, so they don't really know that they missed out on anything. And because we were able to do like a couple of things, I feel like it made them like extra nice because it was just good to get out of the house when they were feeling okay. Okay, that looks basically identical. Like it really does look the exact same. And I feel like the e.l.f. shadows almost went on a little bit better than Makeup by Mario. So this is kind of, I think, where the look will probably differ a little bit as I pull in the shimmer shadows. Let's just keep it simple. I'm going to go in with this shade all over the lid. I do have the e.l.f. Finest Fleck shadows as well, so I might, oh, wow. Okay, so that is actually super surprising. Why was I expecting it to be not underwhelming, but not that intense? Okay, wow, that definitely has like a wet looking shine to it. I honestly wasn't expecting that. I don't, again, I like these palettes. I have a couple of them and I think they work really well, but I don't know. I just didn't expect it to be so pretty on the eyes. I'm just going to blend out the edges. Okay, let's apply the Makeup by Mario shadow on this side. We'll just use, or I'll just use the lightest shade. Okay, so the finish on the eyes actually isn't that much different than I thought it would be. Like the texture of the shadows feels a lot different, but on the eyes, you can't really see that much of a difference. The eyes look so similar. The two palettes really, like this really does look very, very close on the eyes. I'm just taking the lightest shade from my e.l.f. Bite Size palette and I Love You a Latte just to highlight the brow bone. And then I'm going to apply a little bit of liner. You know what? I think I'm actually going to do eyeshadow as eyeliner just so it's not too heavy, just to keep the look a little bit softer. I'll just use the darkest brown from each palette to line my upper lash line. And I'll just kind of speed through this. Okay, so I do think I will top the eyes with just a little bit of the Finest Fleck glitter shadow in the shade Champagne Showers. I don't know if I've used these on camera yet. I know I've talked about them because I did do a, what was it? A dupes video. And I talked about how I didn't think they were a dupe to the Urban Decay Moon Dust shadows, but I still thought they were just a good shadow on their own. They just kind of add like that extra pop, which honestly, the shimmer in here does give a very similar effect, but there's just something about this formula that I feel like looks extra pretty on the eyes. So I'm just going to go over the top just a little bit. For mascara, I'm just going to use the Milani Highly Rated Anti-Gravity. This is the waterproof one. I've been talking about this a lot on my channel. And so normally I don't do a ton of waterproof mascaras, but this one looks so good on the lashes. I feel like it really lifts the lashes and holds them in place all day long. Okay, so I just applied a little bit of ColourPop's Honey Dude on the waterline. So for the cheeks, I'm just going to take the e.l.f. Primer Infused Bronzer in the shade Tan O'Clock, and I'm just going to warm up the skin a little bit more. I don't feel like I need a lot, just a little bit more on the perimeter of my face. And then what should I do for blush? For blush, I actually have this blush from Essence that's so pretty. It's such a soft formula, so you have to be careful with it. It's in the shade Caramel Latte. It's called the Blush Crush. But I love this because it's kind of like a bronzer. So it gives your cheeks like a little bit of that rosy color that you would normally get from blush, but it also just kind of like flows into your bronzer so perfectly. And it has a little bit of a glow to it. So I feel like it's perfect on days where I don't want to wear highlight. For lips, I'm going to start with the e.l.f. Cream Glide Lip Liner in the shade Baddest Beige. I love this formula so much. Wait, did these come out in 2024? I just realized I didn't include them in my end of the year wrap-up video. Maybe they came out in 2023. Either way, they are still one of my go-to formulas. They just apply so beautifully. And I love that they work to define the lips, but they're also so creamy and so just smooth. Then I'm going to take the other glimmer lip oil I have in the shade Choco Luxe. I really couldn't decide between these two shades when I was ordering. Originally, I had this one in my cart and then I added the other one. And I thought this, yeah, it's so pretty. I just feel like the glitter in these e.l.f. lip oils is so pretty. And again, normally I don't love glittery products, but there's something about the glitter mixed with this formula that looks so good on the lips. I tried the one from the watermelon glow, or what was that? They did like that watermelon collection last summer and they had a limited edition shimmery lip oil. And I thought that was pretty, but I like these better because they're neutrals. They look good. Okay, so that is it for today's video. Those are all of the products that I have to test out. Honestly, some really, really good launches. e.l.f. is off to an amazing start for 2025. I mean, I guess the only product that didn't work for me was the brow pen, which was disappointing. But other than that, I'm really thoroughly impressed by everything else. This feels like a gorgeous formula. It feels good on the skin. It looks good on the skin. I'm curious to mix it with foundation and use it as an actual primer, but I do really like this primer. My skin looks a little bit glowier today than it normally does when I use a matte primer, but I think that's because of the powder. The finish of this powder is really pretty. Like you can see the glow in the center of my face, which normally when I use powder, I get like that flat matte look. So I'm curious to keep using this. I hope it actually locks my makeup into place. I'm going to keep testing all of these products out separately as well as together so I can get a really good feel for which ones work, which ones don't. Definitely a fan of the glittery lip oils. If you're in the same boat as me, you probably don't need any more lip oils in your collection, but it's kind of a nice change from everything else we've seen. There aren't a ton of brands doing like super glittery lip oils, and I think they look really pretty on the lips. Like I said, I do have some other drugstore launches to test out, so I'll get that video up for you within the next few days, but thanks for watching and being here. I really appreciate it. I'll see you very soon with a new one. Bye.